Good evening guys, and welcome to tutorial number 6 in this digital car modification series. This is suspension and how to raise and lower your car, slam it down to the ground just to give it that more aggressive look that you might be after. Okay, now before I get started, I just want to tell you guys a quick tip that I didn't manage to fit in the previous tutorial, which was on alloy wheels and tires. Now as you can see, for those guys that watched the previous tutorial, this is where we left off. Okay, and you may notice that these wheels look slightly different than where we left off with the previous tutorial, and that's because I looked at them when I finished the tutorial and I thought, hold on, these don't look right, they don't look as good as they could. And then I remembered, you know, a little filter that we can use. Now as you can see, the 350Z itself, sorry, the 370Z itself is a high resolution image, very sharp. And if you compare the alloys now with the previous video, in the previous video they're quite blurry because the resolution of the donor image that we used for the alloys were lower than the image that we're using here with the 370Z. So when that happens, and sometimes obviously you're going to look for donor images that are similar in resolution to the car that you're working on, but if that can't happen, or you find something you really want but it's slightly less resolution, when you put it on it's going to look slightly fuzzy, maybe a bit blurry, with less detail. So the way to fix that, and the way I fixed these alloys in the same way, is I selected the wheel itself, I went up to filter, sharpen and smart sharpen, and then you use this amount slider to change how sharp or unsharp you want the image. So the image previously was quite blurry, and obviously I sharpened it up so it looked like it belonged on the car. And as you can see there, changing it around, it does make the image look much better and much more realistic. Okay, so bear that in mind guys. Do sharpen up your images and the parts of the cars that you do fit if they look slightly different detailed to the image that you're working on. Okay, right, so let's get down to the suspension guys. What you're going to need to do is select your master copied layer, which you should always have created when you do work. Okay, and you're going to want to select a selection tool that you prefer to use, either your lasso tools, your quick selection tools, or your pen tool. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to select outside the picture here, just below, near to the bottom end of the bumper, so in line with the bottom end of the bumper. And then our next selection is going to be on the bumper itself, and then we're going to zoom in guys, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically select the chassis of the car, and this is going to allow us to make a copy of the chassis and then lower it down onto the alloy wheels, just like lowering works in real life. So here, where it's actually dark underneath the picture, don't worry too much where you're selecting. Okay, it doesn't matter, but obviously the more accurate you can be, the better it's going to be for when you actually lower your image, because you got to remember what we're actually doing to achieve this lowering is we're making a copy of the top half of the chassis, and all we're doing is pasting it into a new layer and then lowering the chassis onto the wheels of the car. So you're still going to have your image in the background, the original image, and sometimes depending on the image itself, that's going to show through, so you're going to need to use a lot of cloning to fix it. So I'll give you some key points to remember when you are doing this, like selecting as low as you can to the bumper to start off with helps, because the higher up you select, obviously when you do lower it, the more of the image in the background comes through. Now with the pen tool guys, I am selecting straight lines just to save time, but what you can do is you can actually select curves with the pen tool, okay, to make everything more accurate. Okay, and the way to do that is literally to sorry guys, I just lost myself there, is to hold down, when you've clicked, just hold down the mouse button, and what you can do, if I just show you, you can start bending the thing to fit contours of your picture. Okay, so remember that when you are using a pen tool and when you are going over rims, just use that contour tool to get a more accurate selection. Right, so when I get to here guys, I'm going to select a bit of the black, because what's going to happen is it's going to come through a bit as we lower it, the background, so I want as much black as I can there to obviously fit in and make it look a bit more realistic. Now don't go up too high guys, because like I said, the higher you go up, the more of the background image is going to show through. So again, click outside of the image, zoom out for this, click up the top left, and then join them up. Right click within your selection and go to make selection and go to OK. If you hit Control C or edit copy and then Control V or edit paste, it will paste our selection in a new layer, which we're going to rename suspension. Now guys, very important tip, you're going to want to put your suspension layer on top of your wheels, okay? If you don't, when you lower your car, your wheels are going to be on top, and that's not what you want, okay? So make sure your suspension layer is on top of the wheels layer, and all you simply do is grab your move tool by pressing V on the keyboard or using the icon here, okay? And then just with your suspension layer selected, you're just literally going to move it down to where you want to slam your car to. Okay, so we're going to go for quite a slam look just to show you how it looks, or maybe that's a bit too much. Let's go to about there. That looks pretty sweet. Okay, so that's literally how to lower the car. It's not difficult, and what you're going to want to do now guys is you want to grab your eraser tool by pressing E on the keyboard, okay, and you want to erase anything here that you don't want. Sometimes the shadowing comes through from the previous image, so you're going to need to want to erase that. So just go over with the eraser, and there's a little bit here that we don't want. There. And I mean, on a whole, that's been a pretty good adjustment. Sometimes what you're going to do guys is you're going to get the background image coming through. So like you maybe have a bit of the car there or a bit of the car there, and all you'll do guys literally is I'll try and show you. There's a little bit of black here, not that it actually matters guys, but I'm going to show you because I can't find anywhere else where there's a problem. You're going to get your clone tool, you're going to obviously adjust your brush to the size that you need, and you're going to press Alt, select a source, and you're just going to paint over the part that you don't want. So for example, if I had maybe, and just zoom out here, if I had like actually we have got a bit there, so that's perfect. I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, that's a bit of the selection that I messed up, okay? So let's just put it, for example, if that was part of the image in the background, because remember behind this image you've got the original, and sometimes when you lower it that will come through. So if you can see what I mean, we cut the image off around here. If we cut it off any higher, when we lower the image, the original bumper would have come out here somewhere. So that's why you want to cut your image about here and then go up any higher, and then you'll have a chance of the image to come up. So just say you have got a bit like we have here, you just select your clone tool, select your source, and just paint over the part that you don't want, and just neaten it up like that. Okay, and what you will notice guys is you'll see at the top of the picture here, obviously because we've got the original picture below, it sort of halves itself a bit like this. So what we can do is just grab the crop tool, and I'm going to do it, you can do it in line, but since I've got the name of a website here, I'm going to actually cut that off, and then I'm going to cut off the name at the bottom here. Just that's the crop tool, control right click there and then go to crop, and that gets rid of that. Okay, quickly as well while I'm here, if you want to add a bit more shadow to underneath the car, what you're going to want to do is grab your paintbrush tool, okay, or you can grab your clone tool. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to use a clone tool. Select your opacity down to maybe 10% because that's the strength that it's going to paint at. Select the source here within the shadow, and then literally just paint a bit. And like you say, you're not going to notice a lot, but it's subtle changes that are going to make all the difference. And keep changing your source, because it may not look like much now, but when you actually zoom out you will notice the shadow a bit more, and that's what you want. So that's how you can add shadow detail to your image. If you want a bit more, if you want a bit more strength, just put the opacity up a bit more. And also guys as well, just for a more realistic look, sometimes what you can do if you want is you can select the car image, get your burn tool, that's your dodge tool, Rob, get your burn tool, select your shadows, put your exposure to whatever strength you want, and literally all you do is just burn around the wheel arch, because it will give that sort of look of shadow underneath the wheel. And sometimes, like as you can see here, it's not that realistic, so you want to burn around that. For this one we want this layer because that's the layer that we've got on here. So if you burn, it just gives that sort of shadowy kind of effect that the arch is actually over the wheel. What you can also do is you grab your brush tool, you know, get a very small line, get your opacity up to maybe 70, you know, select black on the actual color wheel, and then just draw a black line around the arch. And like I said, from close up it's not going to look like much, and then just burn it, and it will look a bit more realistic. Like you can see, there's a bit more sort of depth of field there. So that's how to lower a car, guys. Any questions or comments, please drop them by, and I'll try and obviously help you out. And then if you do have any problems, or you have any requests for any tutorials, please just drop me an email and I'll do my best to get them to you. Okay. And quickly, just before, guys, you can see we've got little bits of the car underneath showing through here. Just paint them through with the clone tool, and they should disappear. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you on the next tutorial, guys. Thank you.